absolutely. We actually begin in September, in the middle of September, because I participate in a winter sport. Some fall sports, most fall sports do begin a little bit before school begins. As far as faculty working with us, they're wonderful. And I think that one of the best things about the athletic department at Pomona College is that they understand that students are here as students first. And while athletics are very important and they really help us to improve, to become the best we can be athletically, school is the #1 most important thing. And coaches understand that, and so do the faculty. And in my experience, they have been very willing to work with me. They understand that I have athletic commitments, rescheduling exams, giving extensions when we're away. And I think that really kind of the biggest testament to that is that this season, the women's swimming and diving team finished with the highest GPA in the nation of any women's Division III swimming and diving team in the country. And the men's swimming and diving team finished second in the country. And so I think that's really a testament to how well students here balance academics and athletics.
And to Lexi's ability to study. So the way fall sports work, basically your son or daughter will come back a little bit early from their orientation adventure, but tryouts aren't going to be before then in most cases, so it won't be a problem.
Sure, I can speak to that one, and then Michael, if you have. But I think, I think there are a bunch of parts to that answer. The first part is that I rarely feel claustrophobic here. Rather, like most of the time, I feel like I can be easily in 5 places at the same time and be really happy. So there's a lot that goes on here, not only because of Pomona, but because of the consortium. So there are events happening all over the place all the time of all sorts of different categories of fun or learning. So there's a lot going on campus. That said, it's also, it's not that big of a deal to get off of campus here. There are lots of ways to do it. So you mentioned that public transportation is not great. It's really easy to get into LA on the Metrolink train, which is just a few blocks that way. Once you're in downtown LA, it is harder to get around without a car, possible, but really time consuming. That said, we have 2 different car sharing services on campus. I think about half of students who can have cars do. So if you don't have a car, you know someone who does and can usually be talked into going on an adventure. And the school runs a bunch of trips in addition. So we have these things called 47 Things trips, 47 things every station should do before they graduate. And so we'll subsidize trips into Los Angeles to go see like the LA Philharmonic Orchestra. We take, I think it's 750 students from all 5 colleges to a Dodgers game at the beginning of every year. We'll bus people in and subsidize tickets. It's like $5, all included. So there are lots of opportunities. There's at least one every weekend, and often many during the week to be able to get off campus in those sorts of ways as well. So there are ways to get off campus. That said, I usually don't feel claustrophobic here. All of the 47 Things trips, yeah, sometimes we rent charter buses if it's a larger event. We also do have a Stagecoach, which is our own little bus explicitly for that purpose. The other thing that I should mention is the Outdoors Club. On the Loose runs lots of trips to the mountains and the desert and the ocean in the area. So there are at least 4 or 5 trips every weekend that are free for students to go on. The school has a couple cars we check out for that purpose. Student-led trips all over Southern California. So that's another way to get off campus.
I just want to emphasize, he's totally right with all the opportunities to get off campus. I go off campus a ton and I love doing it. But also there is, like he said, a ton of stuff happening on campus, and sometimes I find that there's so much stuff happening on campus I forget that there are opportunities to go off campus. Between the 5 colleges, there's always something going on, and so while it's a small space, there is a lot that is happening.
And people really use the breaks for exploring too, fall break and spring break, and after school sometimes to go on road trips or outdoor adventures, like Micah said. So there's opportunities the school gives to that when you're in the middle of the semester and you are just ready to be a different place for a little while for a break. Students team together to plan really cool trips. Like I did a road trip up the coast one year. We went backpacking in Utah. There's a lot of really beautiful places not too far away.
And just to make a quick plug for LA's public transportation, as someone who lives downtown without a car, it's not that bad. It's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
Okay, I'll jump in first. I kind of already touched on it actually. It's that there's so much stuff happening on campus that you kind of forget that there's a world outside of the Claremont colleges. Sometimes we call it the Claremont bubble. It is easy, like we were all talking about, to get out of that, but sometimes with everything going on, our mindset is here, there's so much stuff going on here that we forget that there's stuff happening elsewhere.
That's it.
I second that, and since Lena's not speaking up, I'll paraphrase a couple of other things that are being talked about on campus. So, right, I think we're a great place. I think one of the things that's really special about Pomona is that we do listen to student input, and when students raise concerns, we work with students to try and make change. So that said, some issues that are hopping around on campus right now are divestment. There's been talk, and there was actually a student vote on divestment, so divesting our college endowment from oil. From fossil fuels. And that passed the student vote, but the trustees haven't taken any action on it yet. So that's kind of waiting in the wings. And another thing going on campus is the dining hall workers right now are holding a vote for unionization. So those are two issues that students are involved in on campus, and I think the college has been responsive to student input on those and has an opportunity to step up and show leadership as an educational organization.
They're smiling at me because I was too long-winded last panel on that question. But I think, yeah, as Micah said, I think that the college is, because it's got a really tight community, the dialogue about about issues that students are passionate about can sometimes be really, it can be constructive and sometimes like too personal, and so it's interesting to watch how a controversy on campus like the unionization or divestment plays out at Pomona. But I think in general, both the administration and the faculty, and the students do a really good job of being civil and productive about how they discuss what they want from Pomona or what they'd like to see Pomona do on an issue. I've learned a lot from those campaigns, and yes, we're looking forward to see how the divestment campaign moves forward. And I think Pomona is also good at critical thinking in terms of, well, for example, full divestment from fossil fuels is quite a task, but what about a green revolving fund? And so we've been in negotiation about alternatives for achieving similar ends, but with different strategies. And I think students and administration are good about listening to each other's concerns and then coming back to the table with a different proposal. So I think it's a healthy activist culture here. Yes, so I'm not on the divestment team, I'm Commissioner of Environmental Affairs, so I've been trying to act as a liaison in this discussion, which has been good. So the minute that the divestment team made their formal request to the Board of Trustees, it went directly to the Treasurer and to the President, who looked at it quickly and then put it to the Committee on Social Responsibility. It came up to the Board of Trustees in the first meeting. Students were there to present to the Board of Trustees immediately, and Karen Sisson, our treasurer, has been really responsive, meeting with the divestment team several times just on this issue. She's done the same for other campaigns such as the unionization efforts. So is President Oxtoby. And we, so the student senate members sit on the Board of Trustees as student representatives to the board. So we get to have conversations about whatever's on our mind with the board, which I've really appreciated. And also I think the culture of Pomona is that you can build really strong relationships if you take the time with administrators, which is really quite unique. You couldn't do that at a really large school. So I had lunch with Treasurer Assistant last week to talk to her about several things, but also it was just a friendly conversation where we talked about my plans for next year. And I think there's an informality there that helps build a sort of relational approach to any issue on campus.
You can pass too on this.
I'm happy to go first because I actually took advantage of a wonderful opportunity to go to Joshua Tree National Park with some friends of mine from the swim team, and we just went there for the day, did a really nice 9-mile loop hike, and it was a lot of fun. And I think that we've already discussed that, but that's very much a testament to the fact that activities like that are very accessible from Pomona. We're kind of in a great location because we're in the center of a lot of wonderful opportunities, and it's something that I hadn't had an opportunity to do prior to that. I've never been to Joshua Tree National Park until last weekend, and it was just a blast. I had a really fun time.
Okay, I'll go. My weekend, let's see. During the day, both Saturday and Sunday, I'm in a photography class and a big project that I've been working on, so I took pictures throughout the entire day. I know, a really exciting life. And then at night, let's see, on Saturday night, I went to a performance. I have a friend who wrote a play. It was actually, the production of it was paid for by the school, and I went to a performance of that, which was awesome. And then I spent like 3 hours grading math homework. I'm a grader for a math class. And then I spent the rest of yesterday doing work. So I had a pretty boring weekend, actually. But
I can talk. So my weekend starts on Thursday night because I have no Friday class this semester. So Thursday night I went to a performance art event put on by two friends in the back of the digital media lab. They hosted a pie cafe. So they baked all of these different kinds of pies, and then they took everyone's picture like a Hollywood mugshot when he came in and hung them up on the walls while we ate. So that was a pretty interesting experience. There was an eclectic group of people there. So that was my Thursday night. I hung out there most of the night. On Friday, I helped with sustainability tours in Claremont. So there was a sustainability fair in the village, and the sustainability integration office at the college was offering golf cart tours to the community. So I helped drive for that, and then had a long brunch with a friend. Then it was kind of a slow weekend. I'm recovering from the flu that's been going around. Spent a lot of time working on my senior thesis, which I turned in a draft of at 2 in the morning this morning.
Well, I can speak to research that I did last summer. So last summer, we have a program called the Summer Undergraduate Research Program, and all students can apply to it. You just have to look for a faculty advisor to host you and host your research. You know, you can either work on his or her project, or you can create a whole new project. And this past summer, I actually jumped onto a project from Professor Summer Sandoval, my advisor, who was working on the impact of PTSD and Chicano Vietnam War veterans. So we actually got to interview veterans all across the SoCal region. In addition to transcribing those interviews and going through that lengthy process, we did end up sending the portfolios to the Library of Congress for their archives there. So it's really important, like the research can be, to something that you really love and are passionate about. It can be something else that you're really interested about. So the research opportunities are, very vast, and this is just one experience. There are many more research opportunities that you can take on during the semester even, or during the year. You can actually take on independent study projects as a course. I'm actually doing that right now, getting ahead on my thesis, so that we can just, and my thesis, just as a side note, is on the impact of college guidance and familism on the Latino male in college and in the workforce. So how those factors influence where the Latino male ends up. So there's so many research opportunities out there that I can't even pinpoint all of them right now. I'm pretty sure I'm blanking on some, but those are two important ones.
I will back that up, sorry. In saying that there's also lots of specified research opportunities depending on your discipline. So I think a lot of science majors do a lot of lab work in the semester and the summer. I am social sciences, and so I got an environmental analysis grant called the Mellon Summer Grant, which is very similar to the SERP, and that was funded by a special grant that the Environmental Analysis Department got specifically for student research. And they sent me to Brazil for a summer, which was really a luxury. It was a wonderful experience to do research on bauxite mining and Catholic communities, which was great. And then they also help fund senior thesis research, particularly if you're doing something that needs field work. So I was doing ethnographic research on a group of Lutherans combating fracking in Pennsylvania, so they helped contribute or helped fund my visits there in the summer, and then I came and wrote my thesis in the fall. And I think one thing that I'll say about research that I found extremely helpful at Pomona is that you aren't, because we're all grad students here, right? You're taught directly by professors how to research. So I've been working, so my 3 advisors for my thesis are all, have an amazing resume of research work themselves, and really helped me not only with my ethnographic style, but with the nuances of writing a large thesis, and read my drafts many, many times. It's just a level of attention that I don't think that you get at all schools. And then professors will also help you publish if you want to do that. So they'll take time with you to talk about how you can translate the 160-page thesis into an article that you can publish in either journalistically or in an academic journal. So they really want to help students get to that level. And for an undergrad institution, that's really phenomenal because it doesn't happen in many places.
I just want to emphasize something real quick, how easy it is to do research even as a freshman or a sophomore. I'm a sophomore. I am currently working on 2 separate research projects with 3 different math professors. I was approached by them, hey, I'm looking for people to do research with. I think you'd be good, or this professor said that you'd be good. And I have, I think, about 5 friends that I lived with over the summer who were on campus, and they had all just finished their freshman year, and professors had approached them about doing research over the summer. So not only are there research opportunities, but they're available as early as your freshman and sophomore year.
Yeah, so I can speak to that. I'm an RA, so I can actually put events on for the residents, and I actually do. We have certain events that we have to put on, not only in as social events, but just to mingle around, educational events, etc. So there are a lot of events that happen within the dormitories themselves, mainly in the lounges, but the RAs and sponsors like Mike do go around, and we meet our residents, we interact with them, so it's constant, it's like a constant event going on every single day. I think that's how it is.
And just for some more context, 98% of our students live on campus all 4 years, and housing is guaranteed if you want it all 4 years.
I can speak to this. So basically, have you guys heard about the sponsor group program? I'll run through real quick. So basically, if your son or daughter decides that they want to come to Pomona, they fill out a housing form, and it's a pretty extensive housing form. You answer a ton of questions about yourself, your interests, your personality, and you rank a bunch of things that you would consider to be either important or not important in a roommate or a hallmate. And then based on these housing forms, you're paired with your roommate. They are read by a group of at least 6 current students, juniors and seniors, and so you're paired with your roommate, and then you're placed into what are called sponsor groups. They're groups of 10 to 20 freshmen that are paired with 2 sophomore sponsors. Actually, next year there's some groups of 3 sponsors. And you live with your sponsor group your entire freshman year, all in the same hall, sponsors included. It's meant to make the transition to college a little bit easier. Sponsors are meant to be there just to answer any questions that you might have. But all the pairing is done based on housing forms, and they are really extensive. You can answer them as in-depth as you want to. I read over my sponsees, that's what we call them, their housing forms. Some were short of as a page, some were 3 pages long, and every single word is read by the students who are in charge of pairing them.
I can answer this. This has been a hard flu season, I think, nationwide, but colleges do, I think you get waves of sickness too. It's interesting to see how it works, but particularly in the spring, the flu season. But I think the student health service is just top notch, and you can have walk-in appointments anytime you need them during Mondays and Fridays, and or you can make appointments in advance, and they have doctors there and nurses, and they're really incredibly open. The receptionists are really nice, and you can come in, and they have a small pharmacy there. And I mean, if you have something really serious happen to you, then they'll refer you to a specialist or to a hospital if that's necessary. There's also, if you they have like on-call numbers if you have any emergencies. You know exactly how that works. I've never had one, but you call a dean, right? If
You can
really
call
sick.
it, there's also a doctor on call.
Yeah, there's a doctor on call as well. But mostly they give you the TLC that you need. And students are also good at taking care of each other, right? It's like, I do miss my mom when I get sick. I really like to just be home and have someone make me chicken soup. But yeah, it's not a problem, and I think students can get over things pretty quickly because in general diet is pretty good here, and that's important. The dining halls are really good at providing all of lots of fresh vegetables and things that you need to make your body like strong and immune. So.
I was just going to add that for any after hours that emergencies, or I guess I shouldn't even say emergencies, but just illness, if you're sick like on the weekend when student health isn't open, there's a great urgent care that's really close. And so you can also go there if you're just ill, but it's not an ER level emergency, but student health isn't open. They're also really helpful there, and it's really close by.
So it does happen occasionally, right? We're certainly not perfect. I think we do a really good job. I know a couple people whose roommates didn't end up working out their first year here, but I think I know 2 out of the everyone that I met and still have met in my graduating class. And so that's like a very low percentage. When it happens, we always have extra rooms so we can move people around. I mean, if you want to split ways, you can. If you want to like mediate the conflict, I'm sure we can do that as well. So that's not a problem. We cross that bridge when we come to it, I guess, with every situation individually.
I would put out that in the housing form, I would highly recommend, so you tend to think like you want your soulmate roommate, right? You want someone who's like really interested in all of your interests, but I found that what you actually want is someone who is your soulmate in terms of their daily rhythms. So like it doesn't matter if you have perfect interests, but if they like to stay up all night, like it's going to start to like erode, and you like to sleep at midnight. Those things are really important. So if your students decide to come to Pomona, I would definitely, there's a section on the form for that, because some people, really do like to become nocturnal in college, and I found that very strange. But and whereas I like to go to bed at midnight every night, and I'm a morning person, so that's an important part of the roommate relationship too. It's hard unless. I think it's easier for students who had siblings who shared rooms growing up. I think it's an adjustment. If you didn't, my sister and I always had bunk beds, so I can get used to it.
Well, first of all, in terms of math, I had no idea I wanted to be a math major. I knew that I was good at math and I liked it in high school. I just didn't think I'd want to be a major. I came here, I took 1 math class, and then I knew I had to be a math major. So I wasn't looking at a school for math. But in terms of why Pomona, for me it was really an overnight stay that I did. I stayed overnight with a friend that I have who is a grade above me, and I got to hang out with his friends, go to classes with him, and just being here on this campus, something just felt right to me. And I know it sounds kind of cheesy, but something just clicked. The people felt like the people I wanted to be around, the class environment felt like the class environment I wanted to be in. And plus, being from San Diego, I really have no idea what winter is, and so I really like the idea of being able to stay in Southern California where it's sunny all year round. But really what it was this overnight stay and just being on campus and the feel that I got.
And the older sons are the same question.
Yeah, if someone else wants to jump in about why Pomona.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is just about fit. Whether you fit into the college, whether you feel comfortable once you step onto the college campus. A big thing for me was that exact concept, fit. I went and visited a lot of other colleges and was, planning on doing an early decision somewhere. But, the only one that caught my eye, the only one where I felt actually comfortable with when I actually stepped on the campus, talked to certain individuals, hung out with a couple friends that I had here, was Pomona. Because I got that air of just comfort, where I could do anything. Hang out with friends, go out, be safe. I don't know. It was just a lot of fit. I don't know how else to explain it. It was just when you step onto the right campus, you'll know.
So the way, in terms of rooms on campus, everything is a single or a double. I think the way the numbers go is 70% of all rooms on our campus are singles, and I think 30% of freshman rooms are singles. And on your housing form, you can request a single. People have done that. You might get it, you might not. And that's pretty much how it works.
I would say 51% in class and 49% from my peers. I think you can get a great classroom education a lot of places, and this is certainly one of them. And I guess the 49% should also include peers and informal interactions with professors and administrators. So those have been a huge part of my college education, and I think that's one thing that's, at least when I was visiting schools, felt more unique to Pomona. So there are a lot of schools that have a small, student to faculty ratio, but this is a place where faculty are really engaged, but not only are faculty engaged, students are engaged with learning, and they're curious people, and they're all experts on something, or at least a couple somethings. Sitting in class, a random topic will come up. The mbira, which is a Zimbabwean, it's kind of like a thumb piano, little instrument. Person sitting next to me in that class was like an expert on it, had played it, grew up playing it, was able to share what she knew with the class. This is a place where that happens all the time, and it doesn't only happen in class, it happens in dorm room hallways at 2 a.m. Students are really interested in sharing what they know and in learning what you have to teach. As a student here too. So interaction goes a lot of ways, and I think that's a huge part of the college experience at Pomona that has made my time here really special and that I'll really value.
I think that there's a synergy there. It's almost hard to differentiate learning from classroom to students to student organizations because they work together so often. So one of the reasons that I am quite besotted with my major environmental analysis is because that happens a lot. So you have classrooms where you'll talk about theory and professors that you get close to who are really active in certain environmental areas, and then that spreads over to what topics the environmental activist clubs or organizations decide to focus on that semester. So you take a food politics, global politics with food and ag, and then that professor helps you start a campaign for dining hall justice, and then that in turn becomes the thing that you talk about with your friends who are also working on that campaign, or something similar to I think because you spend a lot of time with the types of people that are sharing your interests, so a lot of my friends are also EA majors, and so we then find ways to then to take that off campus too. So we'll spend the summer together working on a project or a research project outside of the United States. And so I think that there's a flow to learning at the college that's helpful. And I think also you can take the theory from class and learn how to apply it on campus, and that teaches you different skills because you have to learn things like event management or how to contact people in the real world and have a professional demeanor when you're, I'm trying to think of specifics. I mostly do event management, so when you're trying to bring a speaker to campus, So I think that there's a different skill set that comes from the different activities on campus.
Well, I know that a lot of students take classes at the other 5 Cs. I am looking forward to taking a class at CMC next semester. I have a lot of friends that take classes at Scripps, Pitzer, CMC, and that provides a really wonderful opportunity to interact with students from those colleges. In addition, there are a lot of 5 college activities that are joint 5 college. So the Ballroom Dancing Company is all 5 Cs. We also have an ultimate Frisbee team that's all 5 Cs. Boys lacrosse is all 5 Cs. And so extracurricular activities like that provide yet another opportunity for students to interact with other students at the other 5 Cs. And the other colleges also host a lot of events, speakers, things like that, that anyone can attend in most cases. And so each college kind of offers a little bit of a niche as far as the types of speakers that they bring. And so because of that, we have the opportunity to go see those speakers, and so we wouldn't necessarily get every speaker that comes to the 5 colleges here at Pomona, but because CMC or Scripps have kind of a different speaker focus, we can go see them. And so it gives us sort of an extended opportunity branch to do more things that wouldn't be possible just at Pomona.
I was going to say it's much more than a superficial sort of connection between the colleges. I'm currently co-president of an organization, a club that lives at Scripps. So me and a script student are co-presidents of that organization. I've worked for CMC at a camp that they ran over one summer. So there really is openness and an investment in having students be involved in things on the other campuses as both leaders and participants.
They touched on all of the stuff that there is to do at the other 5 colleges and how much interaction there can be. One thing I just want to say real quick is that while all that stuff is there, it's up to the individual student to take advantage of it. It is possible, if you want to just live on Pomona's campus and not have to look or deal with the other 5 colleges. It's really up to the individual student. If you want that stuff, you want that other interaction, you want to meet all those people, it is totally out there. It's very easy to do, but just to keep in mind that it is up to the individual student to want to go and take advantage of those opportunities.
So we haven't talked about the Career Development Office, so I can talk about them really briefly. I think I owe my job to them. I'm incredibly grateful. So the Career Development Office at Pomona runs a number of programs. They do, even from your first year here, they do like drop-in resume advising. They're hosting an event a couple times this week and a couple times next week where they're bringing in a professional photographer to take pictures for LinkedIn profiles, that you can have a nice looking LinkedIn picture. So they think of all the details. But they hosted, so senior year, you're going out into the world, it's all coming to a head. And the CDO hosts a number of events. There are a couple different liberal arts college consortiums that we're a part of. And so the one to which I owe my job is called the Selective Liberal Arts Consortium, and it's a bunch of schools around the country, and they host recruiting days all around the nation. And Pomona actually helps fund students from campus to fly out to these recruiting days and interview. And so I interviewed with a bunch of different places, and that was how I got in the door. I don't know that I would have made it past the resume screen necessarily because I'm a psychology major, but once I could sit down and talk to someone, I could talk to them about why I thought I would be a good fit. So the CDO has been phenomenal.
So the college generously funds internship programs. They have two options. You can do the Pomona College Internship Program, which people call PSIP, which is during the semester, and the college funds you to do internships like a job on an hourly rate. Normally in the LA area, I did one in Atlanta and just telecommuted, which is a silly word, but so I really enjoyed that. And the reason they do that is because a lot of internships are unpaid. Even though that's technically legal now, but NGOs can't afford interns a lot of the time. So that opens up a window to do internships at places that can't pay you, which is usually a really rewarding experience. And then there's also the summer internship program, which has grown dramatically in the last couple of years. I think they've had a lot of alumni support for that. So my year, I think they gave out 28 grants to do unpaid internships, and I think they're from $4,000 to $8,000 of funding for a summer, which is very generous. And so I did one for the National Council of Churches in Washington, D.C., and it was enough to pay for housing, which is expensive in D.C., and provided for transportation and all of those things. So the CDO, the Career Development Office, is also very engaged in helping you find the internship that is right for you. And they have you do a lot of informational interviews with alumni. Other things. What do you guys think? Other ways?
I was going to tag on to the back of it. So this isn't a formal program, but like the alumni network is sometimes a question that people have, and I think I got an internship last summer because of our alumni network. So we're not a giant school. By definition, our alumni network is smaller than the University of Illinois. But we have a very strong alumni network is how we make up for it. So our alumni go into all kinds of different fields. There's a pie chart somewhere in our literature, but you can see we're spread out. Business, nonprofits, the entertainment industry, and the graduate education world. And alumni are really willing to help students. So I reached out to a couple of alums who I didn't know at all with just an email saying hi. And every single one that I reached out to was willing to have a conversation with me on the phone and make sure that my resume got a good look. And that was definitely really helpful, and I don't think that experience is atypical.
Just one thing I would quickly add as an alum, one of the other things that all of them are going to find out is that it's not just Pomona. It's not just Pomona's network, but it's the Claremont Consortium network. So there are events put on throughout the year where they can network with students from Harvey Mudd, from Claremont McKenna. When you meet someone out in the real world who's from Pitzer, there's a shared sort of understanding there. So So in a lot of ways, the consortium even plays into sort of those postgraduate opportunities.
So we should clear this one up. I think because one of the things that's really special about Pomona too is this is a place where people are really academically engaged. People come here because they want to work hard, they want to learn, and they want to have an academic experience in college. I think that's why we're all here, because we're interested in being students. That said, people here find a balance between work and play, and I think that's something that's really important. It didn't really come out when we had the question about what we did on our weekends. I don't know what happened for us. It's a bad time of the semester, I guess.
Yeah,
And,
everyone's ramping up to finals. So.
but there definitely are like parties on campus, so there are social engagements many nights of the week that students can go to, both of an alcoholic and non-alcoholic nature. We're not a dry campus. But that said, it's not a drinking predominant culture at all. And so yeah, so there are all kinds of events on campus like that. There are speaker series, which is actually, I think, kind of a form of social engagement here. People are really interested in going to hear someone talk and then having an academic discussion about what they thought about them kind of informally over coffee or tea. So that's something that's a big part of life here. Also, the Outdoors Club has been a big part of my Pomona experience. I've spent a lot of time hiking. At least once a month, I go on a college-sponsored trip to the mountains or to the desert and hike with a big group of friends from the 5 colleges, and that's actually how I've met a number of friends from the other 5 colleges.
Yeah, I think that Pomona kids are excellent jugglers, and so you have to be a good time manager to handle all of it. I think for me it comes in waves too. Certain semesters I want to take more classes, and I know that means that I will have less time to socialize. And then other semesters, a lot more time. Like this semester, I knew that I wanted more time to spend with my friends before we depart into the great big scary real world. And so I think you have to use your own judgment about what period of your college career you really need to plug in. And so for me, that was spring semester of junior year and fall semester of senior year. I was doing my thesis, and so it was harder. It's hard. But even then, when I was working many hours during the week, you find ways to fit it in. And students also do a lot of collaborative studying, which I find helpful. And there's so much built-in collaboration in classes with projects that and it's not forced, so you end up spending lots of time. So this semester I'm working on a senior capstone project where we're doing a consultancy project in the town of Pomona on food security, but I'm with a lot of my good friends, and so while it's work, we also spend a lot of time together goofing around while we're working on this project, and it's a fun activity as well. And I think that's what kind of marvelous about Pomona is that there's sometimes not a real dichotomy between work and play too. It's
I mean, as an RA, I can tell you that I didn't have to bust anyone. So what does that mean? I didn't see anything going on. We have an understanding that students will not, indulge in these illicit substances. If they do when I'm not looking. They do, outside of my view, because I keep a close eye on my residents because I want them to be safe, have a great experience here, but not mess themselves up in one way or another. So I didn't see anything, so I hope that no one did anything, but I mean, I can't speak for the other colleges. That's my input.
I would say I don't think that in comparison to others, we have a very little hard drugs like cocaine and heroin I've never seen in my 4 years here. And so that is something that
I think, so yeah, the bottom line is that it's a college campus, but that substances in general, and I would include alcohol, aren't the center of social life here.
I live in Sub-Free right now, so I can speak to that. I don't think that socially speaking we interact any differently with anyone else. If you choose to live in Sub-Free, you're most certainly not isolated. People don't look at you and say, "Oh, she lives in Sub-Free. We're not going to talk to her." But I think living in Sub-Free, my experience has been that it was very quiet. I know that a lot of my neighbors were very studious, and as a student athlete, it was nice to come home on a Friday night before a swim meet and have the hall be really quiet. But that was just my personal experience. But as far as a social difference, I really don't think there's one. I have lots of friends that aren't currently living in Sudbury, and it really depends on your personal preference.
Yeah, I think I would say freshman year was an experience for me because I wasn't expecting it to be as socially intense as it was. It's when you live on campus with a lot of freshmen too. It's high energy all the time. People are really excited to be here. They want to do things all of the time. They want to be on the move until 4 a.m. in the morning. And I was just at some point just I need a place to come back to. And so being in Sudbury was like a nice break from that. But I would say like as parents, you should know that freshman year will be probably their most intense year, and then it calms down a lot. And by senior year, people are so mellow, and because people cause a lot of social anxiety. Freshman year brings out sometimes social anxiety and other anxieties, and people they don't have necessarily it takes a while to build friendships where you can then show your vulnerabilities to people. So it's freshman year is an adjustment, but I think Pomona does a good job of making it an easier one.
And just to quickly add, covering up my position here in admissions, speaking as a former student, as a sub-free person who didn't live in sub-free, I also didn't find that difficult to navigate.
I mean, 100% of our professors are not perfect human beings. So yeah, I mean, definitely, I think there are some professors who are favorites here, and there are some who aren't as well liked. I think on the whole, this is a phenomenal group of professors though, and almost all of them are totally loved by students, and the ones who aren't generally don't end up getting tenure here. So no, it's not perfect, but your odds are definitely worth taking here. I think more than there are a lot of places.
I live pretty close by, but not as close by as those individuals that live here in California. So I live in New Mexico, so it's only one plane flight away. But I did go home at fall break and at Thanksgiving. And it wasn't because I didn't want to be here. I think it was more because my mom really wanted me to come home. She was really missing me, and so I was like, okay. And of course, it's nice to take a step out of the Pomona community, but I think that I never felt like I really wanted to go home because things were so difficult here, because I think the sponsor group program and just the professors you meet in general in your first year, it provides so much support that I didn't just feel like I was floating through sort of a situation where I was really unsure, because there were always people to advise me and to help me when I needed something.
I think that was the wrong answer.
You won't lose your kid, they'll come back to you, don't worry.
It was too stressful that you ever actually wanted to do.
Oh.
Dining hall food is really good, but it's not home cooking,
Yeah.
so they'll come back.
Yes, so environmental analysis is a 5-college major, actually a 4-college major. CMC's holding out, but and so yeah, there's a lot of collaboration. I think some of the it depends on what I think the other. So in the sciences, Pomona's sciences are more contained with Pomona, but the other 3 colleges that combine together in their joint science program. But you can always take classes at other colleges. So a lot of programs, particularly subject-related programs like Africana Studies or Gender Women Studies are 5-college majors. So that means that there's a lot of collaboration between professors. I think Religious Studies is also at least partners a lot. Can anyone else speak to that?
We split up things like languages, so for instance, Italian lives at Scripps.
Yeah.
So there's definitely collaboration across departments. I've taken some of my major requirements. The department has approved substitutions. I took one at CMC, one at Scripps, and they've been fine with that.
And you quickly, because it's such an intimate community, you quickly know not only the favorite professors at Pomona, but the favorite professors at other colleges. So you know the different strengths of taking a class in social justice in Pitzer versus a class in social justice in Scripps, depending on the professor. And students are really good about dialoguing about those things. And I think that the different schools have a different pedagogy, and so you learn a lot from that difference, I think. I know I've taken a lot of politics and gov classes at CMC, not because I think they're stronger than Pomona's, but because they're just a lot, Pomona does, I think, theory better, and they do pragmatic, sort of like on the ground, how does this work in DC type of study. Well, I'm going to Sicily, so I'm going to let Micah talk about this. I'm just leaving.
I mean, I think this coast draws, our big draws here at the college are from, there's a little section in the Midwest, and then it's up and down the East Coast, in addition to, of course, California and the West Coast. So I found when I was applying for things that there were an equivalent number, if not more, opportunities actually on the East Coast. We had a bunch of, there were career fairs, there were at least 2 or 3 in New York, 2 or 3 in DC, 1 in Philly, 1 in Boston. So kind of up and down the coast there was plenty there, and actually the funding given to fly, there was a grant given to Pomona specifically to fly students to job opportunities on the East Coast. So there's an additional pot of money available for students specifically to fly from LA to interviews anywhere in the East. So I mean, I have a friend who's going back there after graduation. It's common for people to end up back on the East Coast. I don't know if I'm a big university person. When I was looking at schools, I was looking at some really big universities and some really small places like Pomona. And so what stood out to me about Pomona was the sort of collaborative community that I felt here, which is something that I didn't always feel at the larger places. That, circling back to like being sick, this is a place where friends will bring you notes and bring you Gatorade, and that's really amazing. That said, so I don't feel like I know everyone on campus, and I think that most places I go, I know at least 1 or 2 people, and I don't know a good chunk of the room. And I think that's been a really good balance for me. And that's true now as a senior. Most places I go on the 5 Cs, I know enough people at other schools that I can show up to a talk and I'll know 1 or 2 people, but there are still tons of people to meet. And I don't feel like the community feels sort of tiny and incestuous, and I think part of that is the 5 college consortium that broadens that horizon.
Yeah, I think the consortium definitely remedies that. One thing I will say is that I had to learn the skills. I think you learn a lot of skills at a big university, like paying rent, and like, you know, really being autonomous in terms of cooking your meals every day and balancing that. And I think that a lot of students learn that in the summers, in internships. I did that this summer in DC. It's a learning curve, and so I think there's ways to get those skills in other places. But Pomona, the benefit of the small school and not having to cook your meals is that you have a lot more time to do things like studying and going out to events, and I mean it opens you up to having more time to spend on the activities that happen here, and there's so many of them.